The string quartet played Pachelbel's Canon as I sat at table 23, the farthest corner of Rosebrook Estate's grand ballroom, sandwiched between distant relatives and my sister's college roommate's parents. The massive crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the marble floors, highlighting the designer gowns and custom tuxedos that filled the room. My simple navy dress from a small boutique in Paris felt oddly out of place, despite costing more than most of the flashier outfits here. "Did you see what she got us?" Ashley's voice carried across the room as she showed off her gift table to her collection of bridesmaids, all wearing identical rose gold dresses that cost more than a teacher's monthly salary. A donation to some children's charity in my name. How embarrassing. I mean, who does that at a wedding? I sipped my champagne slowly, a vintage I'd actually supplied to the estate's wine cellar last month, not that anyone knew. The $50,000 donation I'd made would build a new children's wing at St. Mary's Hospital, providing critical care to hundreds of kids. Not that Ashley would understand the value of that over her requested Waterford crystal set. "Katie always was the practical one," our mother chimed in, adjusting her pearls, a nervous habit she'd developed over years of apologizing for my modest career choices. "Though you'd think she could have managed something from the registry. That crystal set was only $3,000. I checked my phone discreetly beneath the imported linen tablecloth, scanning the latest email from my foundation's board. Another successful acquisition in Singapore, 3 more hospitals funded in underserved communities, and an educational program launched in Detroit. The Parker Foundation had grown far beyond what anyone in this room could imagine, but here at my sister's wedding, I was still just poor Katie, who worked in nonprofit. A memory surfaced, Ashley and I at 16 sharing a bedroom. "You need to think bigger," she declared, plastering her walls with pictures of mansions and luxury cars. "No one gets rich helping people." I'd kept my acceptance letter to Stanford Business School hidden under my pillow, already planning how to prove her wrong. "Did you at least get a hotel room?" Ashley approached my table now, her Vera Wang gown rustling against the floor, the same dress I'd seen her eyeing in Vogue last year, marking its price at $45,000. "Or are you driving back to that tiny apartment tonight? It's at least an hour away, isn't it?" "I'll manage," I replied quietly, thinking of my penthouse overlooking Central Park, one of 12 properties I maintained globally but rarely used. Ostentation wasn't my style, something Grandma had taught me before she passed, leaving me the seed money that started everything. "God, it's like you're not even trying anymore," she sighed dramatically, waving to a photographer. "Remember when we were kids and you actually had ambition? Now look at you, running some tiny charity while I'm marrying a hedge fund manager." Marcus, her new husband, was indeed successful, though his fund's recent 40% growth had a lot to do with the anonymous investments my foundation had made through 3 different shells companies. I'd vetted him thoroughly before allowing those investments, ensuring he wasn't just another trust fund kid playing at finance. "Someone has to help others," I said, smoothing my dress. "Not everyone can marry rich." "Well, you could have at least tried," she sniffed. "Instead of wasting time with all those business degrees just to give money away." "What was it, Stanford, Harvard, and where was that fellowship?" "Oxford," I supplied, remembering the years spent building my network, learning from the world's top philanthropists, and quietly amassing the resources to make real change. The Parker Foundation now owned hospitals, schools, research centers, and yes, historic venues like Rosebrook Estate. Our cousin Melissa joined us, champagne in hand. At least she could afford the entrance fee to this place. Rosebrook Estate is so exclusive now. I heard some mysterious billionaire bought it last year and transformed it. The waiting list for events is 3 years long. "Mysterious is one word for it," I murmured, remembering the paperwork I'd signed to acquire the estate. It had been a strategic purchase. The venue's profits now funded 3 children's hospitals in underprivileged areas. The extensive renovation had been my pet project, though the small plaque crediting the Parker Foundation was hidden discreetly near the kitchen entrance. "Speaking of mysterious," Ashley continued, gesturing around the ballroom, "I heard the owner never even visits. Probably some old man who doesn't appreciate the history of the place. The wedding planner said they're planning more renovations soon." I hid my smile behind my champagne glass. The renovation plans sitting in my private office would transform the East Wing into a community education center, while maintaining the venue's exclusive status for the funding it provided. The wedding planner, Ms. Roberts, hurried over with a concerned look. "Mrs. Wellington, we have a slight situation with the payment processing system." "What do you mean?" Ashley's voice rose sharply. "Marcus handled all that. He paid the premium package rate. The system's showing some irregularities with the authorization codes. I need to speak with the owner's representative immediately." "Well, go find them then." Ashley snapped. "This is my perfect day and I won't have it ruined by payment issues. Daddy will handle it if there's a problem." I stood slowly, my navy dress catching the light. "Actually, Ms. Roberts, we should talk." "Not now, Katie," Ashley waved me off. "This is important. Go mingle with the other singles or something. I think the bartender is available." "Yes," I agreed, pulling out my phone and opening the property management app I'd had developed specifically for my foundation's real estate holdings. "This is very important." Ms. Roberts glanced at my phone, her professional composure cracking as she recognized the proprietary management software. "Miss Parker? You're the Katie Parker. The payment irregularity," I said calmly, "is because this wedding was never meant to be charged. Though I'd appreciate if you kept that detail private." Ashley's perfectly contoured face scrunched in confusion. "What are you talking about? Why would you have anything to do with the payment?" The wedding planner's eyes widened further. "Oh my God. You're the founder of the Parker Foundation. The one who bought and renovated Rosebrook last year." "The what?" Mom's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. She'd appeared beside Ashley, drawn by the commotion. I adjusted my simple navy dress, a one-of-a-kind piece from a small Parisian designer whose atelier I'd saved from bankruptcy. "The Parker Foundation owns Rosebrook Estate, along with 16 other historic properties across the country." "That's impossible," Ashley sputtered. "The foundation that bought this place is worth billions. They fund hospitals and schools and wedding venues," I completed. "The profits from Rosebrook support 3 children's hospitals in underserved areas. That tiny charity you've been mocking all night? It's one of the largest private foundations in the country." Mom sank into a nearby chair, her perfectly maintained facade cracking. But all those times you couldn't afford to join us on vacation." "I was opening medical centers in Southeast Asia," I said. "Those business trips you thought were made up? I was meeting with world leaders about education initiatives." Marcus appeared, drawn by his new wife's distress. "What's going on?" "Ashley, the photographer wants your hedge fund." I turned to him. "Did you ever wonder about those anonymous investors who helped you expand into Asian markets last year?" His face paled. "The Parker Group investments? That was you." "Through 3 different shell companies, yes. I had to verify your fund's ethical standards before allowing the investment. The returns are funding scholarships for underprivileged students." Ashley's hands trembled as she clutched her bouquet. "But you live in that tiny apartment." "I keep a small place as a mailing address," I corrected. "My actual residence is the penthouse overlooking Central Park. Though I'm rarely there, too busy with foundation work." The string quartet had stopped playing, the absence of music making our conversation carry across the ballroom. Guests were starting to turn, watching the drama unfold. "That donation to St. Mary's," Mom whispered. "The new children's wing. Will be named after Ashley and Marcus," I confirmed. A $50,000 wedding gift seemed more meaningful than crystal stemware. "Though I did also buy everything on your registry. It's being delivered tomorrow." Ms. Roberts cleared her throat. "Ms. Parker, about the renovation plans for the East Wing. The Community Education Center?" I pulled up the blueprints on my phone. "We can discuss that later. Tonight is still my sister's wedding." "A wedding in a venue you own," Ashley said numbly. "All those times I bragged about booking Rosebrook Estate were quite entertaining," I admitted. "Especially when you told everyone how you'd convinced the mysterious owner to bump you up the waiting list." Marcus loosened his tie. "The Parker Foundation. They're the ones who funded that new hospital wing in Singapore. The one that saved my mother's life last year." "The Catherine Parker Memorial Wing," I nodded. "Named after our grandmother. She left me the seed money to start all this. The same inheritance you said I wasted on business school, Ashley." Mom's hands fluttered to her throat. But why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. When I said I wanted to change the world, you told me to be more realistic. When I started the foundation, you called it a hobby. When I worked 18-hour days building something bigger than myself, you said I was avoiding real life. The wedding planner's tablet chimed. Ms. Parker, the Prime Minister of Singapore, is confirming next week's meeting about the new medical center. Ashley's bouquet slipped from her fingers, scattering white roses across the marble floor. Prime Minister? The scattered roses from Ashley's bouquet lay forgotten on the marble floor as silence descended over Rosebrook Estate's grand ballroom. The string quartet had started playing again, a soft melody that did little to ease the tension. Mr. and Mrs. Wellington, Ms. Roberts stepped in smoothly, ever the professional. Perhaps we should discuss the remainder of the evening's schedule? Ashley stood frozen, her perfect wedding day narrative shattered. The schedule. Right. The schedule for my wedding in my sister's venue. Your sister's foundation's venue, Marcus corrected quietly, his banker's mind already calculating the implications. Along with, apparently, half the buildings in our investment portfolio. I checked my phone again. Another message demanding attention. The education center in Dubai needs approval for additional funding. Excuse me for a moment. Dubai. Mom's voice cracked. Is that where you really were last Christmas when you said you couldn't afford to join us in Aspen? Opening 3 schools and a medical facility, I confirmed, typing a quick response. Those children needed education more than I needed a ski trip. The wedding photographer approached cautiously. Mrs. Wellington, we should start the formal family photos. Ashley laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. Family photos. With my sister, the secret billionaire philanthropist. God, I told everyone you couldn't afford a decent dress, and that's probably some designer original, isn't it? Marie designed it specifically for tonight, I said, smoothing the navy silk. After the foundation saved her atelier in Paris, she insisted. The same designer who made your wedding dress, actually, though you bought yours through Neiman Marcus. Marcus loosened his tie further. The Parker Foundation. I've been studying their investment strategies for years. The way they leverage private sector profits for public good. It's revolutionary. Thank you, I smiled slightly. Your analysis of our Southeast Asian markets was quite impressive. It's partly why I approved the investment in your fund. All those times we tried to set you up with our friends' sons. Mom sank further into her chair. Doctors, lawyers. We're usually seeking funding from my foundation, I completed. Rather awkward, really. The tablet in Ms. Roberts' hands chimed again. Ms. Parker, the UN Secretary-General's office is confirming your keynote speech at next month's Global Education Summit. Ashley's perfectly curled hair was starting to wilt. Thing Esther. Little Katie. Who once borrowed money for lunch, Marcus mused. Yet somehow orchestrated the largest private healthcare initiative in Southeast Asian history. I adjusted my watch. A simple Patek Philippe that cost more than Ashley's car. The borrowed lunch money was during a meeting with the World Health Organization. My cards were being recoded after a security upgrade. I repaid you the next day, as I recall. With a check from a Cayman Islands account, Marcus realized. I remember Ashley complaining that it looked suspicious. The wedding planner's tablet chimed yet again. The Tokyo office needs approval for the new pediatric research center. Route it through Singapore, I instructed. We'll need to coordinate with the medical teams there anyway. I turned back to my family. Now about those wedding photos. How? Ashley's voice was small. How did you become this? I looked around the grand ballroom, at the venue I owned but had never flaunted, at the sister who'd dismissed my dreams, at the mother who'd never understood my choices. I became this by believing that wealth isn't about what you have, I said quietly, but about what you do with it. Every time you mocked my tiny charity, we were funding another hospital. While you planned this wedding, I was planning healthcare initiatives for entire regions. Mom stood shakily. All those missed family dinners were usually because I was meeting with world leaders or overseeing foundation projects, I confirmed. Though sometimes I just needed peace to work. Running a global organization takes focus. The string quartet began the wedding march, a reminder that this was, after all, still Ashley's wedding day. The reception should continue, I said firmly. Ms. Roberts, Please ensure everything proceeds as planned. The East Wing renovation can wait until tomorrow. Of course, Miss Parker, she nodded. Though the Board of Trustees is requesting a video conference about the new African initiative. Tomorrow, I said. Tonight I'm just the sister of the bride. A sister who happens to own the venue, fund her new husband's hedge fund, and run one of the largest charitable foundations in the world. But still just a sister. Ashley smoothed her Vera Wang gown, visibly trying to process everything. The children's wing donation. You really spent $50,000 on my wedding gift? The foundation spent $50 million on the entire hospital, I corrected gently. The wing named after you was just a small part of it. Consider it my way of making my big sister part of something truly meaningful. As the wedding march played on, I watched my family's perception of me transform. The quiet sister, the practical one, the disappointment, now revealed as someone who had built something far bigger than their limited vision could have imagined. Now, I smiled, picking up a champagne flute. Shall we celebrate your wedding properly? After all, I did spend quite a bit renovating this place for occasions just like this. The roses still lay scattered on the marble floor, a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful moments come from shattered expectations.